The streets of Jerusalem were not quiet that morning. The city was swollen with pilgrims, voices carried through narrow alleys, sandals slapped against stone, and the smell of roasted lamb and burning incense clung to the cool air. But above the noise of festival preparation, there was another sound rising, darker, sharper, filled with agitation. A crowd was gathering, restless. At the center of it all was a man, hands bound, face bruised, robe stained from a night of violence. His eyes, however, calm, piercing, unshaken. This was no ordinary prisoner. This was Jesus of Nazareth, dragged from the high priest's courtyard, beaten through the night, and now standing on the edge of Rome's justice. The crowd surged toward the governor's palace, toward the place where decisions of life and death were made. The Roman prefect, Pontius Pilate, would decide. He was not a man of compassion. He was a man of politics, calculation, survival. His task was to keep the peace of Rome in a land that despised his rule. And now, thrust into his court, was the most unusual case he had ever faced. The Jewish leaders led the charge. Their voices were filled with venom, but their accusations seemed strangely hollow. This man stirs up the people. He claims to be a king. He threatens Caesar. But Pilate had heard countless rebels, zealots, and fanatics before. This one was different. He wasn't pleading. He wasn't bargaining for his life. He stood silent, his gaze steady, as if he was not the one on trial at all. The governor sat down on the judgment seat, studying this strange prisoner. Are you the king of the Jews?" Pilate asked. His voice was steady, quiet, yet cutting through the air like a blade. "You say that I am." No protest, no defense, just those words, and a silence that unsettled the Roman official. Pilate shifted in his chair, glancing at the crowd, at the priests. Something about this man made his pulse quicken. The accusations rained down again. He stirs up the people. He blasphemes. He deserves death. But Jesus said nothing. He stood like a lamb before the slaughter, silent and unbroken. Pilate leaned closer. "Do you not hear the charges they bring against you? Speak. Defend yourself." But Jesus remained silent. And in that silence, Pilate felt the weight of something he could not name. The crowd roared louder. The priests pressed harder. And Pilate, this seasoned Roman who had sentenced hundreds to death, felt strangely powerless. He sent Jesus to Herod, hoping to avoid the decision. But Herod, mocking and unsatisfied, sent him back. And now, Jesus stood once more before Pilate. The governor's wife approached him, her face pale. "Have nothing to do with this righteous man," she whispered urgently, "for I suffered greatly in a dream because of him." Her words struck Pilate like thunder. Righteous man. Dream warnings. This was no ordinary case. Pilate turned back to the crowd. He remembered a custom, releasing a prisoner during the feast. Perhaps this could be his way out. He stood, raising his hand for silence. "Whom do you want me to release to you? Barabbas, a murderer, a rebel, or Jesus, who is called Christ?" A hush fell for a moment. And then, like a wave, the answer came, fueled by manipulation, fear, hatred. "Barabbas, release Barabbas." Pilate's heart sank. He looked at Jesus again. This man had healed the sick, spoken of peace, carried himself with dignity, and the crowd chose a killer. Then what shall I do with Jesus? The answer hit like a hammer. Crucify him. Pilate's jaw tightened. Why? What evil has he done? But reason no longer mattered. The shouts grew louder, fiercer, more violent. "Crucify him! Crucify him!" The air thickened with hatred. Pilate looked at the mob, at the priests, at this silent man whose eyes seemed to look straight through him. And in that moment, he knew this was not justice. This was bloodlust. But Pilate was a man of survival. If the crowd rioted, Rome would crush him. His career, his life, everything he clung to, was on the line. He called for water. Before the eyes of the crowd, he washed his hands. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he declared. It is your responsibility. But water cannot cleanse a guilty conscience. And so Pilate handed him over. Jesus, beaten, mocked, crowned with thorns, was led away to be crucified. Yet even as he was condemned, he was the one in control. For the truth had never been on trial. The truth was standing, unshaken, unbroken, in the form of a man who chose silence over self-defense, surrender over escape, death over compromise. The governor returned to his palace, but the sound of that crowd, the weight of those eyes, would never leave him. The crowd dispersed, satisfied with blood. The soldiers led their prisoner away, and heaven and earth shuddered. For truth had been rejected, but love was about to triumph in the most unexpected way. This was the trial where truth stood before power, and power blinked. This was the morning when justice was twisted, yet salvation was birthed. This was the day Pilate washed his hands, but could never wash his soul. And this was the day Jesus walked willingly toward a cross, carrying the weight of the world. The trial ended in condemnation, but the story was only beginning.